Hi, my name is Eyal Holamish and I'm the CEO of OurSay.org.
I'm Christopher Kremer from the Australia-India Institute, and welcome to the world's largest democracy forum on OurSay.
OurSay is an organization which connects you to people in positions of power. And we're really excited about this forum because it's the first time we've had Australians asking and campaigning behind the questions they have for Indian leaders. The Indian leaders we had on this forum were Dr. Kiran Bedi and Dr. Amitabh Mattu. Dr. Kiran Bedi is a retired police chief and a social activist, with Dr. Amitabh Mattu, the director of the Australian-Indian Institute and a contemporary thinker on Indian issues. In this particular forum we had nearly 1,000 votes and 50 questions and over 2,500 views. The top question was actually brought to us by someone who's not a member of the Indian diaspora, and it's really great to open it up to the public and get people who are outside the Indian Australian community asking questions about India's future. Jan Stewart was this question asker and she received 303 votes. Her question was around what's the most impactful thing that women can do in India for the benefit of the country's future. We also had a question from Lakbir Weinberg around violence and women and what role leaders can play in addressing that issue. And that was quite an interesting time to have that question, considering it came a couple months before the recent events in Delhi with regards to sexual assault and violence against women. And so it's amazing to see the public getting involved in something early on and actually being the pulse of the issue well before it hits the public agenda. Finally, we had a question about uranium and whether or not we should be looking at renewables as another alternative to investing in uranium in the Indian subcontinent.
You know, the Australia-India Institute exists to expand understanding and cooperation between India and Australia. And what better way to achieve that than to allow ordinary people from both countries to articulate the questions that matter to them and pose them to people in positions of power and influence.
So check out the response videos from Dr. Amitabh Mattu and Dr. Kiran Bedi on OurSay.org right now. Post a comment and let us know what you think. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jan Stewart and I have the winning question in the world's largest democracy forum on OurSay. My question to the panel is, what is the single most impactful action Indian women can take for India's benefit? Thank you.
I think to declare themselves as a vote bank. Women must declare themselves as a vote bank, that if you don't improve policing, then no woman will vote for any party which does not declare police reforms, judicial reforms, administrative reforms. I think women just need to become a vote bank, and women actually vote in majority, but they are the ones who are getting the least of governance. They're getting least of opportunities. They are the ones who are more illiterate. They are the ones who are unskilled. They are the ones who are deprived of opportunities. I think women in India declare themselves as a vote bank. We will vote only for that candidate and that political party which guarantees us, before they go for the next elections, before the country goes for general elections, is police reforms, which means ensuring sensitivity in policing, prompt registration of policing, faster trials by judiciary, and certainty of punishment. Severity, yes, but certainty of punishment. And if somebody's out on bail, he's on a conditional bail, and not that he starts stalking you again. So you're looking at police reforms, you're looking at judicial reform. We need to have women out of all the political parties actually to become a urge for this. They need to rise above their politics, the caste, the gender, the region, and become as a gender, saying now women will vote for only that party which guarantees them. So women need to become a vote bank, which they're not. They follow the advice of the husband, the relative, the brother, the pradhan. I think they need to say, no, we have our rights and opportunities. Provide us the opportunities, otherwise we will not vote for you.
I think the single most important action that women in India can take for their own improvement and for the benefit of India is to work for their education and empowerment. I believe that gender equality in letter and spirit can be transformational. India unfortunately has suffered for long from not just patriarchal structures of inequality, but also a culture where women's empowerment is not taken as seriously as it should be. If women were to mobilize themselves together, if they were to work for the education of their sisters, daughters, granddaughters, and if they were, through interventions in public life, ensure that women feel truly empowered, I think that will make a big difference to Indian society, Indian culture, and India as a nation. Really, India has done so much, India has grown so much, India has changed so much for the better. And yet, if there's one stigma that really hangs like a millstone around India's emergence as a great power, it is the way that we treat our women. That needs to change if India has to be really recognized as a great power in every sense of that term.
Hi, my name is Lakbir Weinberg, and I had the second most popular question in the world's largest democracy forum on OurSay. My question to the panel is, how do we address the ongoing issue of violence towards women, not only in India but around the world, particularly against those in arranged marriages and those who have had to move away from their families? Thank you.
Work on the men. We are only focusing on the women. All the time, women should be going in for self-defense. Women, what about the boys? Why should boys not become more responsible gender? In fact, they are the known traditional protectors. How can they become perpetrators? They are the traditional providers and protectors. The army is formed of all men. Army is all men. It's only Israel and other countries who are short of population where every woman too is a soldier. But otherwise, countries which are not in need of every person on the field or the battlefield, it's a male-dominated army. So is it the male-dominated police. But policing is no more about policing men or security. It's internal security, which means civil behavior, non-criminal behavior. I think we need to work with the boys to say that, understand, the old feudal times are gone. Today it's a global village. Both the genders, it's a question of human rights. I respect your right as a woman. You respect my right as a man. It's a question of responsibility and not just your rights. I must be responsible to respect your rights. You should be responsible to protect my rights, whether it's a man or a woman. So I would like to focus both on men and women, and we in our non-profit organizations are focusing, we've been focusing all the time on girls, girls, girls. I think we went lopsided. We need to go on girls and boys, make girls economically independent and strong and courageous, and make them mobile. And boys, make them more responsible, make them more self-conscientious, make them duty-conscious, so that we balance society. I think it's been a huge imbalance, and the imbalance must be corrected. To my mind, this is the truth.
Violence against women is all pervasive anywhere in the world. Things have changed, things have become better, but still there is that latent aggression, often translating into not latent but real aggression towards women, whether it's in Australia or the United States or India. You need to address these things not just through legislation, not just through better enforcement, but also by raising awareness, and that awareness has to be through education in schools. Boys, men who go to schools have to be made aware of how important it is to preserve, protect the dignity of women, to ensure that violence against women is seen as a stigma, horrifies, causes the kind of outrage that it should be. Remember, however, that even till 100 years ago, practically nowhere in the world did women have the right to vote. Even in England and the United States, before the suffragette movement and other movements, civil rights movements, women didn't have a right to make the political choices which would decide who would be ruling the country. So things have changed, and yet not changed enough, not changed dramatically enough, and we have to keep working, keep pressing, keep pushing. Only then can we ensure that violence against women is really a thing of the past. We need to have that attitude of zero tolerance.
Hi, my name is Glenn Clark, and I had the third most popular question in the world's largest democracy forum on OurSay. My question to the panel is, just as Australia's Prime Minister Julia Gillard visited India recently to talk up a uranium export deal, India's own Auditor General has warned of a dangerously unsafe, disorganised nuclear industry with ineffective oversight. Many Australians don't want to see their uranium partly responsible for future nuclear disasters, which could potentially kill thousands or even displace millions in the world's second most populous country. Wouldn't it be better to leave Australian uranium in the ground and instead help India to develop decentralised renewables to solve its energy needs?
I think people don't realize how important energy security is for India. Every Indian government recognizing that conventional, traditional fossil fuels cannot really provide the energy that India needs for its growth and development, and to ensure that its people get the opportunities that are needed to lead a successful life. And alternative sources, whether it's sun, solar, or wind, or tidal, are really not scalable to the point where they can ensure India's energy needs. Nuclear is, frankly speaking, the only answer. Remember that nuclear energy does not have the same kind of impact on climate change as carbon fuels, as fossil fuels have. And however, it is dangerous, and there are problems of what do you do with the kind of safety measures that you need to ensure that nuclear reactors are secure, that there are no leakages. And even a country like Japan faced a terrible nuclear disaster. But this doesn't mean that you throw away the baby with the bathwater. I think what is needed is much greater investment in security, much greater investment in safety, to ensure that the chances of an accident are minimal, or in fact, even a minimal chance of a nuclear accident is too heavy a price to pay. So that is what Australia and India need to work together. It's not that Australian export of uranium is wrong. Because after all, as I said, nuclear energy is important and critical for India's energy security needs, but to ensure that the reactors that are built have inbuilt safeguards which will ensure that an accident will never happen.
It's what is holding back India is its political governance. We've thrown up a political governance which is disconnected from its people, which is also known to be as a very large chunk, not all, but a very large percentage also corrupt. So if you have corrupt leadership, even at a small scale, but as legislators, how secure can you feel? India, we as voters, have voted in politicians who have criminal records. Some of them are in jail. So the fault is of the voter who's gone and blindly voted people in power who got criminal antecedents, some of them have been charged by the courts, even crimes against women. So the fault is of we, the voters in democracy. I think it's voting democracy yet. It's not a functioning democracy. It's media is free, judiciary is free. We got Comptroller and Auditor General. So we got an independent judiciary. We got independent financial auditors. But we have no performance auditors. There's no performance appraisal of policing, judiciary. These are closed institutions because we have elected in politicians who got criminal antecedents. And the political parties also give them tickets on winnability, that they will win the votes, they will win the tickets. So it's winnability. I think we as voters have to change our orientation to not vote for anybody who's got a corrupt record. And even if it's 1/3, it's a 1/3 of the Indian parliament. Parliamentarians in parliament is 540 plus. 1/3. You have a coalition where even a party of 18 decides whether the government will stay in power or not. And you have 1/3 parliamentarians in India who've got criminal allegations, charged or convicted. So what do you do with them? So we, the voters, have voted them in power because you have billions of people still millions still below the poverty line, still millions not literate enough, still millions out of job, still millions back in the margins of society. So India is a continent. It's going to take much more time. But the awareness has started, the rejuvenation has started, re-energizing has started, reawakening has started, and the shake-up has started. But whether it comes right away, soon enough, or a little later, time will tell. But change has begun.
True, India has great advantages over China. Its population is going to stay younger while population is going to grow older. Therefore this huge demographic dividend of 500 young men and women under the age of 25. It has a rule of law, it has a democratic system, there are fundamental freedoms, freedoms of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of people to assemble together, to form associations, to protest. And yet if there's one single issue that is holding India back, that is the lack of governance. India's politics, India's politicians are the ones that is letting India down. Because politics is so deeply connected with all forms of corrupt practices that unless we are able to transform that, and frankly it has also to do with electoral reform. Today in India, to win a parliamentary election, you need at least $1 million, while the ceiling that the Election Commission has put is less, it's just a few $1,000s. You need to ensure that there is no incentive for politicians and for politics to become corrupt in the manner that Indian election and Indian electoral practices seem to allow that to happen. But electoral reform is only one part of the way in which the governance structures have to change. The fundamental change that you need to do is to have much stronger local government, a decentralization of power and an excessively centralized system so that people at the grassroots, at the bottom of the pyramid, can own the policies that are made in their name, feel connected to the structures of power. Only then will it become very difficult for politicians and politics to become corrupt. And that would really change the face of democratic India. And if that were to happen, then really we could have said that beating China in the most nicest sense of the term is no longer even an issue. We would have gone much beyond China. Thank you.